support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 113. Should we be worried?
No, we should not.
Of Untold Radio's Down South Anomalies, broadcasting from Sydney, Australia on...
Oh. Too early in the morning.
Durack, is it?
Darragland.
Darragland.
Oh, my God.
No Indigenous culture there. You forgot it slipped out of you.
Yeah.
Well, we've had to change from the Gadigal to Durack. It's Durack, is that how I pronounce it?
Darrag.
Yeah, well, anyway, we want to pay respect to our Indigenous elders, past, present, and emerging. So, welcome to episode 113, E.M.F. You thought it was electromagnetic fields. It
Yes,
is
it's
not.
It is not.
It is the extraterrestrial musical force.
And
forces.
it's been a big one, hasn't it?
And it's a term that was coined by the author Michael Luckman when his book was first published in 2005.
Yes.
Alien Rock.
20 years ago.
The Rock and Roll Extraterrestrial Connection. It is an astounding book, and we have been desperately, we should be doing interviews. I've been told I need to do interviews, stop going back to the archival revival, because we'll get ousted from our servers. But we're waiting on a couple of interview subjects that keep sort of backing away because of other commitments and controversy. You know, we've got that great story coming up that involves a 3-part series that went to air on one of the major streaming services that there's a lot of contention about. But we will get to that.
We will.
This book is an astounding book. And as far as I know, Aspasia, it is, maybe just go to the stills, it is the only book of its kind that faces the subject of have rock and roll, have musical entities, especially in the 20th century, very popular ones, been influenced by something else, by extraterrestrial forces. I don't know if the word should be extraterrestrial, but definitely musicians, as far as we are aware, have tapped into the mystic.
Well, there's so many of them. You know, the names just, it's just a roster. Just reel them all off, really high-profile names.
They all seem to have had some supernatural, paranormal, mystical, ufological experience over the course of their lives, and it's influenced where they have gone in culture. It's about the only other book I could find on this sort of subject matter, which is about Wally Elmark.
Elm Lark.
Now, she was the rock and roll witch of New York, and the great, Timothy Green Beckley, trust him to bring out something that's a little alternative. And she had a major influence, especially over David Bowie.
Yeah, right.
In Angie's biography, Backstage Pass, as Angie, the first wife of David Bowie. And she speaks about an incident during the Thin White Duke tour in the States where the cocaine usage was out of control. The paranoia had reached a manic level, and David believed there was a demonic entity in his pool that would come out late at night.
Right.
So she came to do an exorcism on that pool, and Angie was sort of giggling and laughing and ready to lose it completely until she saw the pool water bubbling and a dark, obscured mass that began to take the form of a gargoyle in the bottom of that pool appear.
Well, here's the thing,
That's a rather pragmatic.
Yeah, but everybody would say, well, these people were on too many drugs, which they were.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest problems.
And so this is, I think, why a lot of people actually don't touch this subject matter. That if some sort of rock star or a musician comes to the fore and says, I saw this or I experienced that, people are like, well, these people do so many drugs, you can't really trust their judgment or what they're saying, what they saw.
That's an extremely valid point. And that's one of the reasons why these cases and these stories have not been documented.
That's right. But then again, I always go back to Terence McKenna, and he said that the only time that he did see aliens was when he was on MDA, not
We're not
MDA.
pronouncing or getting any of the acronyms right this morning, so please excuse us.
I should have just said when he was on drugs. You know what I mean? But yes, so being on drugs is not necessarily. It's not going to necessarily make you hallucinate. It might actually be the door that opens
the doorway to perception.
Yeah, that opens your consciousness up to actually experience.
Not that we're
realms.
Endorsing any form of use of anything illegal, but sometimes
because we are not a pharmaceutical company that pushes drugs on anybody.
No, we're not.
No.
Okay, so Michael Luckman,
yes,
the director of the new Center for Extraterrestrial Research out of New York City. Now, I cannot find if that center or Luckman is around anymore. So if anyone out there can help us.
Yes.
Because initially we wanted to track him down for an interview, but it's become extremely difficult.
Yes.
And Luckman taught at the First Nations College, the very first ever sort of college course on rock music. He was literally the man behind the original school of rock.
Right. Okay.
Can you believe that? Now,
I believe that.
I wanted to go to moving images. What are you doing?
Okay.
That's where we're going first.
Okay.
Now, a large number of musical icons, famous and infamous, have had direct UFO, UAP involvement, contact, and they've written songs about alien visitations.
Yes.
Luckman calls E.M.F extraterrestrial musical forces. He credits this force for their musical power behind some of the most resonant songs and on-stage performances. He also, like Preston Dennett, documents a lot of ufological sightings.
Right.
First, second, and third at rock concerts, festivals, and even at venues.
Right, because that's another. Yeah, I can, because it's like a huge amount of people, especially outdoors. Those festivals. What's the difference between a sports thing and a musical thing? You know what I mean? And
again, it's a gathering of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a large gathering of people in an open field.
I don't know if people actually sat back and thought about this introspectively, but music happens to be one of the most powerful, transformative forces the Western society could ever have in its hands.
Absolutely.
Where a 3-minute song can completely change the way that you think.
Or transform you to some other place.
And it's the only other area, apart from meditation, where both sides, both hemispheres of the brain operate at the same time. So something is going on there.
Absolutely. There's some sort of a connection.
It must be our connection into the other consciousness, the database that's out there, whether it's Rupert Sheldrake's son or whatever.
Yep.
And so many musicians, you've heard this, we know this from first-hand experience. How did you write that song? Well, it came in 10 minutes. I mean, Elton John Rocketman just came to him. And it was like they channeled it from somewhere else. They can't even remember how they stumbled upon and started writing it. So that's an astounding thing. Jerry Garcia, Dave Davies from The Kinks, Sammy Hagar of Van Halen, Rick Wakeman of Yes, Cat Stevens, Elvis, Bowie, Lennon, Nina Hagen, Jimi Hendrix, Michael Jackson, the Rolling Stones. The Moody Blues look like the entire band had a missing time and were abducted one night on the road. And that's another reason why there are so many UFO sightings, is that bands are traveling so much.
When they're on tour, they're going from one venue to the next, and they're traveling through the night.
And like Bowie, a lot of them had a fear of flying.
Sure.
For valid reasons. I mean, look at the amount of original rock stars that died early in plane crashes, And so they would be on the road.
On a bus.
And so they had so much more time. Do you remember when we had lunch with Travis Hall?
Yes, we did.
Our man who had the incredible conscious recall, Snowflake, Arizona, late 70s, the protagonist.
73.
Fire in the Sky. I
1973.
think it was 77, wasn't it?
Nope.
Okay.
It was the early 70s.
All right, I will believe you on that. But probably one of the most valid cases in the world. He actually spoke to us over lunch saying that the amount of musicians that ring him on a weekly basis.
Wanting to talk.
One of them I could secretly expose here was Tony Orlando from Dawn.
Wow, there you go.
And there were many female musicians as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you also know the driving force of music. I mean, look at Anarchy in the UK. Look at God Save the Queen. It didn't get any radio play, but is the most powerful force behind social change in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of intelligence services know that. And that's why John Lennon's no longer with us. It remains one of the few forces that raises the human spirit. It brings us all together on the dance floor and doesn't discriminate about race, age, infirmity. Everyone just seems to come together in terms of music. Now, Luckman, in the foreword of this astounding book, said that there are many examples of science actually proving that something else is affecting us. Right. Mm-hmm. And so he brought up two classic examples to him. One was a signal that was detected in 2003 at Arecibo in Puerto Rico, and that is the signal known as SHG 602 plus 14A. It sent shockwaves through the SETI community like the WOW signal. Yeah. It was transmitted at 1,420 megahertz, originated at a point between the constellations of Pisces and Aries. It actually repeated itself 3 times. And it's really strange that it's there in that particular system between Pisces and Aries, because we don't know of any exoplanet or star that's there. That was not just it. The other thing he spoke about was the incredible business that had gone on with NASA's Mars Opportunity rover. There were 2 of them. There was the Spirit and there was the Opportunity. 2004, they both went to Mars. They were supposed to last for 3 months. But let's hear it from the copyright-free source, I hope, NASA itself.
I wanted to say, with the completion of tonight's commanding, this concludes operations for MER-1, spacecraft ID 253. And on behalf of the entire MER project, we'd like to thank the DSN for over 15 and a half years of outstanding support from launch until tonight. That support is one of the reasons why this mission has been so successful. And once again, the DSN has helped us to make history. Thank you.
And this is Station 14 on behalf of the network. Thank you for your comments, and it's a sad day for all of us.
14, you are released.
And 14 copies.
MER project off the net.
This is a celebration of so many achievements. And I'll just start by saying, you know, when this little rover landed, the objective was to have it be able to move 1,100 yards and survive for 90 days on Mars, 90 sols. And instead, here we are 14 years later, after 28 miles of travel, and today we get to celebrate the end of this mission. So it's an honor for me as the NASA administrator to come out here to this amazing facility with so many amazingly talented people to say thank you for your great work, not just for our country, but for the science that people are going to be benefiting all over the world. They're going to be benefiting from this science for you.
All right, enough NASA propaganda there. But look, 14 years, I think it was closer to 15 and a half years. But one of the things you might have heard there is that this was only supposed to be operational for 3 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the astounding thing is something started to happen on Mars. And it not only happened with the Mars Opportunity, it happened with the Spirit as well. But the Opportunity was an example you could never believe. Now, let me see if I've got those slides up. Hopefully I've popped them up, but maybe I haven't. Well, let me tell you, I haven't. Isn't that bizarre? I had them there.
Oh,
So
okay.
what I was going to say is you can actually go and you can look at the cleaning of the solar panels on the Mars Opportunity rover.
Yeah.
Now, Mars, of course, lots of dust storms. How are we going to get around that? Elon Musk. There's another story.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, overnight, when the rover was switched off.
Yes, when it was shut down.
And when it came on in the morning, the cameras would reveal the most filthy of solar panels covered in dust were cleaned immaculately.
Yeah, right.
And not just that.
Yeah.
The machines were recharged to 70%. So something was going on. There was some assistance. Dare we say anomalous assistance?
Well,
Michael Luckman brings that up right in the forward to say, look at these anomalies that are occurring.
Yeah, yeah.
To this day, no one can explain what was happening with those two rovers. And it's happened with other.
So they would have factored in the thing that because of the dust and stuff there, that it would only be able to last like about 3 months or so before it became
and once
so dusty and just couldn't get any more.
Will not get any energy.
That's right.
Yeah.
It would be so blocked from all the dust that nothing had penetrated after a certain amount of time. Right. So instead of the 3 month lifespan, it ended up being, let's say 14, 15 years.
When I initially
just
read about these stories, they were saying, who is cleaning? What car wash are they using on Mars?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Which is quite astounding. So, all right, let's step into it. Let's go to these stills. Let's have a look at...
let's name some names.
Well, I mean, Elvis is the biggest of them all, and Elvis reckoned that he had direct contact with cosmic beings between the age of 5 and 10.
Right. Okay.
He had
no drugs then.
No drugs then whatsoever.
Right. So there you go. Early on.
Had UFO sightings all his life.
Yeah.
Did you know that Elvis, on numerous occasions, in the Memphis Mafia, many of the crew that were around him will attest to this.
You're right.
Had the ability to heal others. And there were certain times that he actually stopped his limousine and get out and heal someone.
Right.
He got out and healed people in lines wanting to go to his show. He also had the ability to levitate objects. And there was not just one.
Who, Elvis?
Multiple eyewitnesses.
Levitate pork sandwiches into his mouth.
But he would also go in the backyard of Graceland.
Yeah.
And for the Memphis Mafia, he would move clouds with his mind.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there was a lot going on with Elvis that was rather bizarre. He confided a lot of his experiences to a lass called Wanda Jane Hill. And there's over 5 hours of recording of Elvis talking about visitations by beings and all sorts of things. So there is a major alien connection with Elvis. Okay. There certainly is. Larry Geller was Elvis's hairstylist turned spiritual guru. And he witnessed one night the whole of Graceland's being covered in blue light.
Right.
But do you know about Elvis's birth back in 1935, 3:30 a.m., that a blue light shone over Elvis's house? I mean, this is the original 20th century star of Bethlehem.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well,
the world being made aware that a huge presence had come into
it. There you go.
So
it wasn't a virgin birth, but let's not lose our mind.
Hold on. Are we serious here?
I know.
Sarah, or are you in a very jovial frame of mind?
I'm just saying,
Also, people have seen objects hovering very close to his gravesite.
Okay.
Within feet of it. Blue light being pronounced. Also, the incredible near-death researcher Raymond Moody documented hundreds of cases of Elvis visiting people after his death. And of course, the late great comedian, brilliant satirist and arch conspiracist, Richard Belzer, couldn't leave Elvis out of his book on UFOs and JFK. And he was right on. God, I miss that man. He was just so astounding. So, I mean, there is so much to Elvis. The chapters on Elvis are just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
But it looks like Elvis, who really kicked off the birth of alternative music for the young.
Rock and roll.
In the 50s,
Sure.
rock and roll was from day one. I mean, he believed it was from somewhere else.
Okay.
And that he had been sent here. So I guess where we step to now is the Fab Four and the Beatles, and especially John Lennon. Now, we've spoken about on this cast before. Yeah. There he is with the girl that Yoko handed over to him, May Pink.
Oh,
the secretary.
That is a bizarre scenario.
Bizarre.
That Yoko would actually allow some other woman to step in there and be with him while she was doing the warm-up.
Well, Yoko's an entire other podcast. It'll probably get taken off the air because she's got some very creepy stuff, especially their
intelligence. She's definitely got intelligence.
Something's going on there. But who knows? Anyway, New York City's overlooking New York City's East River, May Ping and John Lennon in 1974 witnessed a gigantic saucer hovering about 100 feet away. Isn't that incredible? Evidently, Uri Geller, who was close to all these people, Michael Jackson, a whole lot of them.
He definitely did.
John Lennon handed him metamaterial
that
he believed was from a flying saucer.
Okay.
So that Lennon sighting there in 74 is most interesting. There's a bit of a scribble and a witness of him and May Ping looking at it.
Yeah.
Walls and bridges, you can see there's a reference to it there. And, of course, Yoko, exploiting everything around her, got into it, especially with her star-filled album, I think, and so did freaking Ringo.
Of course, yeah.
But let's just get to a little point here. I'll do a bit of a reading, maybe, from this book.
Okay.
John's mind-blowing up-close and personal UFO sighting occurred on August 23rd, 1974 at 9 p.m. The setting was a small penthouse of the Tower Apartments on the East 52nd Street, overlooking New York's East River, a place John shared with his personal secretary and then girlfriend May Pang. Among the parade of celebrities who regularly stopped by were Mick Jagger, David Bowie, Paul McCartney, and his wife, Linda. Writing in friend Andy Warhol's interview magazine, Lennon recalls, "I was lying naked on the bed when I had this urge, so I went to the window, just dreaming in my usual poetic state of mind. As I turned my head, hovering over the next building, no more than 100 feet away was this thing. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, a phenomena long associated with UFO reports. Lennon said that the object appeared to have ordinary electric light bulbs flashing on and off around the bottom, one not blinking, but a red light on top. What the Nixon is that? I said to myself. Is it a helicopter? No, it makes no noise. Then it must be a balloon, but no. Balloons don't look like that, nor do they fly so slow, about 30 miles an hour. According to May, she had just stepped out of the shower when she heard John scream for her. He was standing naked on the terrace of the apartment, looking towards the sky, pointing. My eye caught this large circular object coming towards us, said May. It was shaped like a flattened cone, and on top was a large, brilliant red light, not pulsating as other aircrafts we'd seen heading for Newark Airport. When it came a little closer, we could make out a row or circle of white lights that ran around the entire rim of the craft. They were flashing on and off. There were so many of these lights that it was dazzling to the mind. It was, I estimate, the size of a Learjet, and it was so close that if we had something to throw at it, it probably would have hit it. The UFO had a dark metallic color, floated silently less than 100 feet away from the couple. May jokingly said to John, "Suppose it's looking at us. Maybe they think that everyone who lives on the east side wanders around naked on their terraces on Friday evening. I suggest we look like Adam and Eve." The object went past the United Nations Plaza building, which houses many UN delegates, slowly turned left, crossed over the East River, and eventually headed in the direction of Brooklyn, disappearing from view. John shouted to the UFO, "Stop, take me with you." Then they both went inside. "I almost didn't call you to go outside," John confessed to May. "I was afraid you wouldn't believe me. I thought you would say, 'What is John on?' I didn't think anyone would believe me." The rest of the night, John kept repeating, "I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I've seen a UFO." John and May were in total shock.
There you go.
So there you go. There's a bit of a narrative on the incredible, and I think that album by Yoko was called Star Piece. So quite fascinating. So let's just move on down here. And of course, one of those people is Michael Jackson as well.
Well, yes, the whole Michael Jackson.
And there he is in the immortality chamber. And, you know, he was totally obsessed with basically wanting to get his age up to about 150 years. They said this chamber would work. I think there was a publicity shot he'd done with Spielberg and George Lucas.
Right.
You know that at one stage he seriously believed he could take his moonwalk into space. He wanted to actually do it on the moon.
Excuse me?
And he went about trying to sort out how that would be possible.
Yeah, okay.
He wanted to call it the Skywalk, I think.
Right.
So who knows what was going on there.
Yeah, well, none of that came to fruition.
He managed to secure doses, where a lot of celebrities did, of GH3, the immortality drug. Do you know about that?
No, I do
It
not.
supposedly improves all the physical organs in the body, brings back health,
Right.
replicating DNA.
Okay.
GH3, I don't know if you've ever gone towards that.
Well, you know, their lifestyles don't really, it's not conducive to, you know, living a long lifespan, that's for sure.
No.
You know, they might want to, but yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the beautiful Nina Hagen.
Nina.
Oh, isn't
Nina Hagen.
It's just astounding.
Yeah.
Here's a early photo of her.
All right, okay.
It's so gorgeous. How about this beautiful quote by Nina? "I sing about UFOs and extraterrestrials, so I designed a UFO fashion. It includes science fiction bikinis and Bermuda Triangle shorts." She is hilarious.
Very funny.
But there's no one like Nina. And Nina, in a way, has become a latter-day contactee.
Yes, she has.
She's had first-hand experience, and I think if anyone met the aliens, it was Nina. But maybe it was also David Bowie, who has written so many songs about that stuff. It's just absurd.
Yeah.
Especially loving the alien.
You know, he was running a fanzine there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a UFO.
UFO magazine for a while there. And it was documented in Git.
You subscribe to Git.
I did
It was called
to
Globe
in Transit. And they really were pushing the David Bowie
as an alien.
Well, you know, not as an alien, but as a singer that had contact with aliens. You know, that was really, and he did have a fascination there because he was editing or writing or contributing to a fanzine in his younger days.
His fascination, his inspiration was picked on by another British artist, American, a guy that called himself American, but he actually was born in Britain, was Vince Taylor. The incredibly tragic, out of control Vince Taylor.
Well, his stories, we'll get to that. But his
do you know the conspiracy with the cover of David Bowie and Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars?
No, what is that?
Just look above David's head.
Kanye West.
Kanye West. That's
wow.
Predictive pop culture.
Well, who knows?
How freaky is that? But Bowie, as Nicholas Roeg would say, was perfectly cast.
Oh, yeah.
No one else could have ever gone into this role of Thomas Jerome Newton in the astounding The Man Who Felt Worth.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a fabulous shot of David on the set. How handsome is that? Look at that.
It's an interesting look.
I think it's a really astounding, beautiful look. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right.
No problem.
So there is Vince.
Here we come to Vince.
Okay. Yeah, Vince is so fascinating. Now, I think it was about 64, 65 that he stumbled across Vince Taylor in a cafe. This is after Vince's major LSD meltdown, right? And Vince took him to like the entrance to a major subway station during peak hour and pulled out an incredible map of Britain and the rest of the world, and then discussed with David secret alien bases and UFO landing sites.
So he was
as people were tromping all over the map trying to get into the subway.
Right.
And Bowie was just totally wondrously
fascinated,
enchanted by him, and that became the basis for Ziggy Stardust.
Right.
That disembodied person that was very much like Vince Taylor was out there completely. Vince was so tragic, but so remarkable.
Yeah.
Didn't have a great voice.
No.
A lot of musicians said he had bad musical timing, but he could shake much better than beyond Elvis.
Copytone clip, isn't it?
There's numerous
copytone clips of
24/5 rock.
Yeah.
I mean, here's one of Vince's poses now. You know, I
he
mean,
really took dressing, rock style to a new level.
People could not believe it. I mean, at first he used to come out all in black with a white tie. But then he started to get, they loved him in France.
Yeah.
And that's because Britain and France, the tyranny of distance, hadn't seen the wild side of American rock and roll.
Right.
And Vince knew this.
Vince turned up there.
And so Vince decided that's how he was going to target it. You know, it wasn't going to be on the strength of his voice or anything like that. He became so outrageous in France that they called him Diablo, the devil, and they absolutely loved the devil. Now, I modeled a lot of my own personal performance work off Vince Taylor.
Is that right?
Here I am in the Mary's Burger Palace, trying to do those poses, but as you can see, the audience is just, what do you mean by not working? The audience is just a little embarrassed.
Perplexed. Let's say perplexed.
How do you like this, Malcolm? David Bowie's Ed Straker in Jerry Anderson's UFO. You know, isn't that interesting?
Someone's gone to a great extent there.
Oh, what a thing to say.
Well, no, I mean, getting it looks like it's real, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bowie based his Ziggy Stardust character on Vince Taylor, an unbelievably eccentric rock and roll star with a heavy messianic complex and a love for Elvis Presley, who Bowie encountered at a cafe in Tottenham Court Road in London in 1966. Taylor was best known for his work on the 59 Signal Brand New Cadillac, which accidentally became a B-side. It was one of the only songs he wrote. It was a real hit. And it wasn't until the 70s when Joe Strummer from The Clash actually grabbed that, and it was the first track on London Calling. The Ziggy Stardust album opened with a song called 5 Years, which set the stage for Extraterrestrial Intervention. The second song, Soul Love, offered hope, peace, love, and redemption. And then came the momentous arrival of Ziggy in Moon Age Daydream, in which he announced, "I'm the space invader. I will be a rock and roll bitch for you." Bisexuality had arrived on the scene. Talking about Starman, the centerpiece on the Ziggy album, Bowie said, "Starman can't be taken at an intermediate level. There is a starman in the sky waiting, boogie children." By the theme of it is that the idea of things in the sky are really just as human as we are, and the prospect of meeting them will make us all better people. The song includes the lines, "There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'll blow our mind." So David had launched his hit song, Space Oddity. That was just literally days, 9 days before America landed on the moon. Can you believe that? And, around that time, we're looking at Kubrick's 2001. Everything was boiling up. Bowie had stated that he did support the theory of extraterrestrial life wholeheartedly, but for his writings, it was used as mere imagery, a symbolic generality of some sort of spiritual search. But I think what's happening is this unconscious knowing. And the most of humanity are aware of this stuff, but unconscious about it. Here's an interesting tale. In 1974, David and his then wife, Angie, were transfixed in their Detroit hotel room by an afternoon television news flash that a UFO had crashed in the area with several aliens on board. The spacecraft was reported to be about 6 foot wide and 30 feet long. The three creatures inside were killed on impact when the spaceship plummeted to Earth, recalled David, but they were taken to a hospital and examined anyway. These people looked like human beings but were much smaller, and when they were examined, it was discovered that their vital organs were like human beings too. The catch is that their brains were found to be much further advanced. An update on the UFO crash was promised on the 6 o'clock news. At 6 p.m., the news crew confirmed the landing, but were vague on its location. David and Angie waited until the 11 o'clock news, when it was announced that the primetime news crew had perpetrated a hoax and had been fired. No UFOs had landed. No aliens were in custody, dead or alive. The United States Air Force had not intercepted any craft whatsoever in the skies above Michigan, said Angie. The case seemed closed. But there was really no way to be certain. Angie said David believed very strongly that aliens were active above our planet. That's why we were so alert in the limo on the way to Minneapolis, the next stop on Bowie's American tour, watching intensely for signs of further UFO activity in the bright night sky. David had his eye pressed to his telescope that had just been purchased for him in Detroit. He looked out the open moon roof of the limousine, hoping to see aliens, but none appear. I suspect he wouldn't have been surprised at all if aliens had come right down to the limo and tracked and beamed him in for an exchange of ideas, said Angie. Bowie talked about the 6 o'clock broadcast of the UFO crash during his show at the Detroit Arena that night. I asked the audience at the concert that night if they'd heard about the spaceship landing, David said, and just about all of them had. So I wasn't hearing things. I really like to know more about it, though. Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
It's amazing what appears in news bulletins and then very quickly disappears. Now, one person we know really well to be affected by the ufological world is Jimi Hendrix.
Yes.
What an incredible talent. Dead again, part of the 27 Club. Quite sad. Hendrix was an astounding intuitive. He'd had experiences from birth. We know for a fact he was in an attempt of building a UFO landing site in Hawaii. And a lot of his music has evidently come to him in extremely spiritual ways. So Hendrix is an incredible story and well worth checking out. There's also the remarkable George Clinton there.
Yes.
The Mothership Connection from the band Parliament. And the person I love and you love deeply is the one and only Sun Ra and his orchestra. So Sun Ra.
That film that he did, Space is the Place, pretty amazing.
He had early experiences as a jazz musician where balls of light would literally hit him in bars and just blow him away. The album covers are just amazing. Jazz in silhouette there. The orchestra still plays on.
Without him.
Yeah, we know that for a fact. Yeah, but still, there's no one quite like Sun Ra. I think you can actually go up on YouTube and check out Space is the Place.
Is the Place,
Yeah, which is an incredible tune as well, Atmosphere, isn't it?
It is.
Let's just check out a little bit. The only piece I was able to find on the author of Alien Rock out there, and we'll come back to you. Let me just get that image down. Look at those incredible album covers. They're just so gorgeous.
They are.
So the musical world.
If these orbs are from another planet, why did they choose Cleveland of all places to make an appearance? It might not have been random. Some believe that it may be because of our giant shrine to musicians right here on the lakefront. And you know, kind of looks like a spaceship, doesn't it? Many musicians who are immortalized inside the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame are believers. So maybe these outer space visitors were just here to visit their followers.
You know, you have an analytical side of your brain and a creative side of your brain. And really the only two things that I know of that makes both hemispheres fire simultaneously is music and meditation.
Michael Luckman found so many connections between legendary musicians and Martians that he published a book about it, Alien Rock.
After about 3 years of deep research, I've discovered all kinds of amazing links between such rock icons as Elvis, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Jerry Garcia, Jimi Hendrix, and David Bowie.
Luckman says Elvis's link was the most unusual. He claimed to have been visited several times by aliens.
Maybe they're just more open, because if you're not looking, you're not going to see it. You know, I tell people, just look up.
The Ufology Project says most reports around here can be traced back to birds, planes, or Venus. But
you know, there are things that we find that we really cannot explain, and those are the things we really want to look at the most.
There's no doubt the Rock Hall and its inductees draw lots of visitors to Cleveland. The question is, has it attracted some from out of this world? Jen Pachano, 19 Action News.
Well, Hassan, that's the only piece I can find of Michael, who's not looking too young there either. So whether he's still around or not, I'd love to think he is still around and still running that centre.
Look, that is a fascinating. If you have any interest in music and the paranormal, this is just an amazing marrying of the two. Is just the stories and the musicians in there and their experiences to everybody, the names, you know, just you know, all the top names are just, all there.
John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Keith Richards, Michael Jackson, Jim Morrison, Jerry Garcia, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin, Robert Fripp, Robert Palmer, John McLaughlin, Ginger Baker, Rick Wakeman, and many other rock and pop superstars have reported feelings of some kind of mysterious power. Let's call it extraterrestrial musical force, E.M.F, that enabled them to write their songs and perform them on stage. Far-fetched as may sound, the Beatles and their contemporaries appear all along to have been some form of cosmic sounding board, which raises larger questions. Exactly who or what was transmitting the music and lyrics to the Beatles and others over the years? Were intelligent beings involved? And if so, what did they look like? Where did they live? And what was their purpose? So it gets curious and curiouser if I quote Alice in Wonderland there. I think there's that notion that most musicians, most creatives know that at some stage they can't put it into words, and I'd love to see more of this articulated, that something comes over them. That some force, I mean, you know it creatively when you're doing art. I know it as a DJ
when
or
I'm
performer.
Sometimes when I'm doing, you know, some sort of a sculpture or something, or constructing something that I've never done before, I you know, I've got to be in the right mood. I've got to be, and then I get into a zone.
Yeah.
And I just go. It just, I don't know. I can't really explain it. It's
and
really bizarre.
That zone can be so easy.
Look, while I'm doing it, it's like, it's nothing. It's like, oh, this, yep. Keep going. And then when I finish it and I stand back and look at it, sometimes I think to myself, oh my God, how did I do that? I just can't even, do you know what I mean? It's like, if I had to do it again, I don't know if I could actually do it exactly like that again. It's just, it's a weird thing. It's like, I'm just
the trouble is,
else.
The society pushes us to deconstruct everything we do. And when I went on television as a host, I actually started to think about the way that my brain articulates vocabulary.
Sure.
And I started to lose that intuitive
just doing it.
flow.
Yeah. Just
because of that.
Yeah.
And I think if we break away from that, go back to listening to music, meditate a little bit more, stop being so introspective, it will come. I
think overthinking things really does, I don't know what it does to your brain, but it really does make you, sometimes you can lose that, letting it just be free flow, just letting it come to you wherever it comes from, because that's the thing, is we don't know where it comes from. And, you know, sometimes I'll sit down and go, okay, I've got to do this. And it's like, I can't. I can't do it. I just can't get in there and start doing it, you know. And then I have to leave it for a while until I get into, I don't know what this thing is I call the zone. I get into the zone and then it just all comes to me really, really easily and freely. But I don't know how to tap into it when I really need to. Sometimes it's just, it doesn't happen. No,
and then other days
sometimes it doesn't.
Work.
And sometimes I'm like, I'm coming up to a deadline for something and I'm thinking, why am I not sitting down and doing this? It's just, this is really bizarre, you know. But it's just not gonna. It's like I'm dry. There's nothing there, you know, and I have to wait for it to come to me.
No, I mean, there was just so much material in this book. We can't summate it or paraphrase it in this episode.
Yeah, no,
I mean, the late, great Marion Faithfull, who passed away recently, she had an incredible cigar luminous object encounter with Mick Jagger when they were camping in the English countryside in 1968.
They went camping?
Yeah, they went camping early in the piece.
Wow.
And then so much stuff occurred with all of them, and they were getting into that time where psychedelics were coming in. You had the UFO clubs in Britain. They were actually, I'm not talking about the musical UFO club, which was like foremost in putting some of these stars out there. But there is something distinctly about this book. Now, this book was published in 2005 and is available everywhere. I suggest purchase, do not pay over $30 or $40 Australian. You can find secondhand copies for $15.
For sure.
It looks like it could be one of those slapped together tropes.
It's not.
Luckman has done the work and the research.
Absolutely.
And so don't shoot the messenger. Go and look at this and you'll realize that this is not just one isolated case.
No, that's the thing.
The majority of creatives that have made it up there,
big name,
that have initiated social change through their music and powerful social change.
And are still going today, you know. I mean, you know, the only reason Bowie's not around anymore is because he died. You know, the Rolling Stones are. Lennon's not around anymore because he died. You know, they're still the huge names that live on. And I mean, I saw even Elton John in there, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, Elton experience. Stephen Tyler was visiting New York for UFO activity. He took it very seriously. He wanted to go into space, and he set off early in the piece. He set off that whole initiation with Michael Jackson, and then Tom Cruise wanted to be the first actor in space.
Right. Okay,
but I think Pornhub's outdone him there, and they're going to do the first triple X-rated in low Earth orbit, not really space. Sting had, from the police, had mysterious crop circles appear on his property.
In England,
Do you remember Reg Presley from the Trogs?
Oh, yes.
A wild thing. He became a very vehement crop circle activist in Britain there. David Grohl from the Foo Fighters, Nirvana.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about the Foo Fighters,
well,
you know,
the name is.
And of course, the beautiful Dan Aykroyd, who suffered, you know, terribly at trying to put together one of these programs. But, you know, one of the singers in the Blues Brothers there is just so many people.
Yeah.
But you know, the one thing that I've always known about music, it is the exocet of creativity. And a 3-minute, 2-minute musical track can not only transform you, but make you realize that you are living with billions, trillions, quintillions of parallel universes of human consciousness that are initiated and given birth in the musical form.
Sure.
So all you need is to hear a 3-minute track, no matter how depressed you're feeling, that can actually liberate you, take you away, and make you realize that there are people out there, you feel isolated and lonely, but there are people out there that are feeling those same thoughts you are. And especially in this time of strife and trouble in the world, which has always been a time of strife and trouble.
Absolutely.
Use your music carefully. Tonight we're performing with the incredible comic book artist and anti-folk musician Jeffrey Lewis in Sydney. And we will try to be as transformative as we can. I might even play Soul Love from Ziggy Stardust.
Wow.
I've got a reworking of that.
Have you?
Yeah, you know, that incredible funk soul version.
Yes, that's beautiful.
It remains a musical hoax. Anyway, it's a very short episode. Hopefully we're going to get on top of our game and have a slew of amazing interviews or disappear into
into
the
the sunset.
Yeah.
We'll see. Anyway, it's all good.
All right. Do you remember what Indigenous land we're on?
Durrad.
Thank you. You got it perfectly down there.
All cylinders firing now.
All right. Well, we've just woken up. We're doing this early in the morning.
Yeah, we are.
You know Aspasia?
Yes.
I
Journey.
love everyone that listens and views this
I know you
cast.
do.
I love our moderators.
Yes.
Catherine there.
Yeah.
That dog is coming good. She's got a rescue dog.
I know. I saw the pictures.
And you know, the beautiful thing is, Catherine, animals do bring much joy and love into the
absolutely.
home. So
Yeah.
make sure you surround yourself with them. We need a farm, actually. But we've got our kangaroos and our emus out the front.
We do. Yeah.
I just want to say we respect and thank you all for watching. So much love. And it's just a joy to keep doing this creatively with the greatest person I've met on planet Earth, this incredible wife of mine, Aspasia. You are on Untold Radio's Down South Anomalies. This could have been a sticky episode given the number 113.
No.
But please go out and purchase this.
If you are a music
book.
lover,
do yourself a favor.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And into the paranormal, the stories are absolutely fascinating.
All right.
And I will, it makes you look at people and the whole, doing the drugs and stuff. It's almost like they're searching for something, isn't it?
I think unconsciously.
Searching to open up something more.
I think every musician out there, every
Yeah.
creative thinks at some stage in the back of their mind they're going to stumble onto the magical frequency. It's like the Kabbalah with Madonna, who introduced that to so many people, which is all about that harmonic vibration.
Yeah, yeah.
At some stage, they're going to hit the right chord, and they're going to transcend.
Yeah.
They're going to disappear, elevate, and become part of the consciousness purely.
Yeah.
I think the human form is the frail intermediate stage of us becoming all an incredible collective consciousness.
Yeah.
So we should annihilate fear, paranoia, envy, jealousy, and just search for love. And then we'll find out what it's all about. Am I
How will the world work then when there's things aren't there anymore?
I don't know, but Aspasia,
It'd be a
I hope
nice
it gets
surprise,
home.
I tell you.
All right.
Anyway, we'll be back next week with God knows what.
And I hope that wasn't too much of a chaotic episode for you all. Much joy.